Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 107. Around the Lens Live, weekly visual journalism roundtable show coming at you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're just doing it, me and Zach this evening. No other guests on this week.
Yep.
It's going to be me and Zach, so it's going to be wild and crazy guys.
Two wild and crazy guys. Anyway, wow, that's the second Steve Martin reference I've had this weekend. I interviewed, I filmed an interview with two guys on a red carpet, and
two guys on a red carpet. That sounds like a sitcom.
Literally, they came up and go, "Hey, we've rebranded. We're no longer the actors that we names the last time you interviewed us. We are two guys in sweaters," and it is entire fantastic bit like. It was one of the guys from Gilmore Girls, and then a really great voice actor from TV from I guess it's a direct-to-DVD thing coming out called Gotham by Gaslamp, which is also really, really, really good. But anyway.
So what was this event that you shot at?
It was called DC in DC. DC Comics, like really does comic book stuff in Washington DC. So this was kind of like a big thing for everybody. But it was a mix over Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. They basically had a kind of pulled out a lot of their had a panel talking about women in comic books and women in in TV, African Americans, LGBT, and then they had a really amazing panel, which I think you can find it somewhere on DC's website if you search DC and DC 2018 on PTSD issues. That actually was really, really fascinating to talk about how a couple of the people that were on the panels deal with that and deal with it through their art and everything. But yeah, that's basically that. And I was down there for comicbook.com filming red carpets. Oh, and also, of course, Tuesday, Black Lightning comes out, which is looks to be it's going to be a really, really controversial and in a good way. It's going to make people talk, not like controversial and like, oh, everybody's, I don't think Donald Trump will be tweeting about it. Maybe actually be fantastic for the show. No, but it's a great show. Yeah, you have it's an old comic book they've kind of revived of an African American superhero and kind of his family who also have superpowers, which I believe is known. I don't think that's a spoiler. So yeah, but yeah.
Well, considering I didn't know anything about the character or the series, you spoiled it all for me. I
recommend it. Check out the trailer. It's just the trailer's fantastic, and all the actors are really good. We got to interview John Ridley, which he wrote 12 Years a Slave. So that was pretty cool as well.
Cool. I did not do anything nearly as exciting as you. I did shoot a rodeo for the first time.
A rodeo
on Friday. Rodeo, yeah. There was a rodeo down the street from where I work, and we'll check that out. Saw some calf roping and saw some bucking horses.
What was that?
Horse bucking. Bucking horses. Bucking horses. Okay. Yeah.
So there was no. So you just saw some horses bucking. Then is that what you said?
Yeah. Totally bucking, full on unadulterated.
We are
bucking. Drawing
the line of losing that for all audiences podcast. But yeah, well, considering, right. I think something we should before we even get into the issues, which is our gear episode, obviously, so it's not really pertinent. But we spent the entire weekend hearing CNN say "s-hole." But say the actual words, which is like, to me, it's still. Exactly. I have Sirius Radio, so I'm driving down in DC and listening to it, and still every single time, one of the hosts go, "Well, the president said countries," and I'm like, "Woo, what?" The FCC must be. I don't know what they're doing, but yeah. Anyway, that was a super interesting change in media.
Well, I know they said it on. I believe they said on Saturday Night Live, and I know like after a certain time of day you can say the S word on cable or like television. So I don't know. I mean, I'm so desensitized because I barely ever watch TV, and when I do, it's like Netflix or something. So what is or what isn't allowed on television.
It's just so weird hearing, CNN host, because I think CNN must have made the decision that they're okay saying the word. MSNBC, I think I only heard one panelist actually say it.
So they were saying it on the news stations.
Oh my God, wow. Yeah, continually. They were actually saying the full word. Like the host was doing the lead-in.
Wow.
And the lower thirds were also saying,
wow.
Well,
it wasn't like,
no,
it
was the whole word. Which is weird that we can't say the word.
Wow.
We're an online podcast and we're not saying it, but CNN broadcasting to millions of people saying it.
Well, everybody knows what it is. We don't have to say it. He knows. So yeah, that was some definitely interesting stuff that happened over the weekend. And of course the Hawaii missile scare. That was another major thing that happened.
Some small news events over the weekend.
Very quiet Martin Luther King weekend.
Yeah.
On to talk about his experience. He, of course, was in Hawaii, and he actually reported on the incident for his Philippine news station. Yeah. So it would have been interesting to get his perspective on that. But, from what I hear, some people, it was just a freaky free time down there. Imagine anywhere, missile warning. Anywhere you get a missile warning, it's kind of going to freak you out.
Yeah.
When I was deployed in Fallujah, we had this early warning system for missiles, and you hear that and you try to get as quickly as you could to a special bunker area, a little cement sort of, I would say like a little cement piece of thing, like a little thing where you ran into, there wasn't anything like underground or anything, but that's what we did whenever we had a missile incoming, where we heard the alarm go off, because there were, we were getting mortar rounds hit at us. Not all the time, but every so often, and people were dying from getting hit by mortars. So it is a real deal threat, and I'm sad that it happened, because in Hawaii it's just going to make people that much more jaded when when or if the real thing does happen.
Let's hope.
Although
if
yeah, I know, right? We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I was listening to, I think, Franco or somebody else talking about the event, and one guy was on the golf course and was like, well, I'm on the last hole, I guess this is how I'm gonna go out.
Well, somebody else was out on the golf course and never actually responded about it, but that's a whole different show. But I was actually interesting. I didn't see, do you see any photojournalism come out of it? Because I didn't see, all I saw was like one web video of a bunch of people putting kids into a tunnel or something. And it was weird, because I expected, I'm like, oh, well, there's going to be, it's one of those things as a photojournalist, is like, you just look for whenever something terrible happens. You're like, oh, well, right. I guess at least some good work is going to come out of this. I don't know, like that dark perspective. But I haven't seen anything at all. And it literally could just be me missing it. But,
I mean, again,
anyway.
I had not seen anything on anywhere until Ron actually shared with me the video that I guess he shot of his news agency.
Yeah. Oh,
and
okay.
I think he got some. I think he may have got some shots of people like running towards shelter, but I think that's about it. And then he got some interviews with people after the fact, and that's pretty much been the extent of it from my perspective. But no, I haven't seen anything
interesting.
There's been no Pulitzers coming out of this group of people huddled in a hallway or a stairway.
The way I found out about it, the weird thing is, the way I found out about it is Ron's Instagram, and he had that post where it's just a screenshot of his phone or whatever with the warning, and I just was like, what?
Right.
Because I was in the press room the entire day, and I not looking at my cell phone. I try to keep it off as much as possible for wireless issues and things like that. And I look at it and go, wait, right. Did everybody else know this happened? And everyone, like, including the stars who were interviewed, was like, oh yeah, you didn't hear about that? I'm like, what's going on? How did I miss this? But anyway.
I don't know. I can't remember how I heard about it. I don't know. Probably something online, something on Reddit. That's probably how I heard about it. Everybody knows my news.
Yeah.
Anyways, I shot a rodeo. It was a neat event. I never shot a rodeo before. I can see why people are sort of attracted to cowboy culture. It's a very sort of than what you expect or what you're used to.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in this sort of technologically advanced sort of world, and I say cowboy culture, and that's where areas is still sort of a sort of link to the past, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was just an interesting thing to shoot. And also a very violent thing, you know, them roping these, everything was a violent event, you know. It's like it's a violent horse trying to buck you off its back, or it's a, you know, a cowboy trying to rope a calf. And like the calf roping, I don't know if have you ever seen calf roping?
Yeah. I photographed. I've only done one rodeo, so I can no longer say, or I can now say, this ain't my first rodeo. But I thought it was.
Yes,
funny.
indeed.
But I screwed up the lead in though. But I photographed one at Madison Square Garden, which was its own. It was its own kind of crazy thing, because you're in Madison Square Garden, and like, you know, they put dirt on the ground, and but they still have the crazy lights and everything like that. So it was kind of its own interesting, controlled yet wild environment.
So then you've seen calf roping, because I mean that is such a violent thing. Like they have the rope and they tie the rope around the neck, and then I saw one instance where they like almost flipped the calf over, and then of course they have to throw and slam it to the ground up, and then it has to stay tied up for a certain amount of time. So I thought, that's pretty crazy.
I was trying to dig up the photos, but I'm not gonna. I think my resolution is so terrible. I'm uploading a massive amount of files, so my resolution on the video end is probably terrible. But no, we had at Madison Square Garden. I don't know how it works in, you know, more regular ones that aren't really like as showy as at a MSG.
Right.
We were literally able to kind of almost get right over when they released the bulls, and they put the guy on top of them, and then they release it, and then they hold on for as long as possible. We were able to get like right up on it, and like seeing that poor animal like just completely totally terrified is more than enough. Was more than enough for me that it's not my game.
Right. But, I don't know. I'd go again. I mean, I shot it, and it's
I totally photograph it again. But
yeah. I'm not like somebody who needs to go to another rodeo just for the heck of it. I'm not going to find myself being a rodeo fan, but shooting it was definitely fun. And I was kind of limited because I was with my son, and so I had to pretty much stay in one location the whole time. But thankfully, I was in a decent location, so I was able to get some pretty decent shots. So if you want to see anything I shot, .com, that's where I post a lot of the stuff that I do. So, anyways, let's talk about gear. That's the focus of today's show. If you weren't paying attention, CES happened this past week. A lot of great gear and technology was announced. Some of it may actually come to fruition. A lot of it probably won't. But again, a lot of interesting gear came out. I thought, hey, this would be a great opportunity for us to wax philosophical on some gear. And, again, if there was not too much camera stuff came out of the show, at least that I saw. But at least like the big name camera companies, besides the GH5S, which we pretty much talked about last week, I don't think there's really much else to add to it. Besides that camera, I didn't see any flagship cameras announced. It was all pretty much just like lenses or concepts or whatever. So let's start with it. Talk about cameras a little bit, because again, I'm gonna, like I said, I mentioned last week the GH5S came out. It would look like an interesting camera. Not anything I'm interested in. I've done a little bit more research on it. I think the low ISO capability is really great, but again, it's a $500 premium over the H5, and I just don't see it there. I mean, unless you are just super duper video camera savvy. But I think if you're that level of video camera aware, you're going to go with more of the dedicated, ENG style camera versus like, trying to make a DSLR or a Micro Four Third camera work. But I don't know. It's
interesting that the Micro Four Thirds, and this is not getting into our usual Panasonic discussion, but the $2,500 price point for this, for the GH5S, is kind of shockingly high. I get that it's got its own thing going, but I mean, you're now talking about into you're not talking about you're getting into C100 range. You can get a C100, I think, brand new for $2,500. That's not 4K, but it's a proper freaking video camera with XL, you know, like it has everything kind of built in. That's the price point. That's the entry price point. And, you know, you can get some decent actual video cameras. And I get that obviously this does both. So there's an argument there. But I mean, you know, this is also close, you know, getting closer and closer to full frame Nikon, Canon, high-end cameras. You know, like what is it? I think it's like $3,200. It's $3,200 or something for the D850. Right. Which, you know, so it's curious in what they're doing with this. I'm interested in whether this is like who's going to buy this. You know, because again, like if you're in that level of video, like I don't know if you're just spending the money for like something like a C100 or, you know, some of the Sony models that they have. So.
Yeah, and I know that Panasonic makes its own dedicated ENG style video cameras. Yeah. Orders and whatnot that, you know, can shoot, like, for instance, I looked at one, it was able to shoot 5.7K video. And here's one right now. I'm just looking at their website. It's a cinema camera, 4K, 24p, or 60p video camera, the HCX1000. And this looks like your standard typical ENG camera with the XLR and everything. That's $2,500. So right there, you could get this, you know, without, you know, just a body, or you get a full-on like video camera and do like, you know, actual video camera stuff. I would have loved to have seen Panasonic maybe go for a like full frame style format. So again, the same sort of mirrorless configuration. But if they're so worried or so concerned about low light sensitivity, go with like a full frame sensor.
Full frame. I mean, this is still micro four third, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, even to compete with the the Fuji systems that are so the Fuji systems are still I don't know if I don't think they call them APS-C, but you know they're cropped sensors, right? So I'm kind of curious that they didn't go that way, but you know then that probably changes body size and everything like that. But I mean, what's the? This looks to me like about the same size as the Sony, at least based on the photo of the guy holding it, which could obviously
it's exactly the same size as the GH5. It's the exact same body as the
so
GH5.
I mean that's about the same. That's probably about almost the same size as the Sony full frame systems. I'm curious on what's like what's the big draw here for this price point and and things like that. I mean, it is again, I mean, it's a system that I'm not that enthralled with the idea of, but I'm curious on as they're getting as they seem to be getting larger. I mean, I had at least a memory of the micro four thirds systems from much smaller than DSLRs, but I mean, this almost looks as big as about the same size almost as my 750, which has a much slimmer body than say my D600. So I don't know. Anyway. More.
I mean, again, if you're looking for like the low light sensitivity, there's spare cameras on the market, I think, from Sony or even Nikon that are really pushing the high ISOs. And if I were like, in that market, I would probably go for that. I don't know. I don't even know what. I want to get somebody on who actually is very keen on this camera to kind of talk about their experience or their desire to buy. And I don't know. I guess it's if you love Panasonic, if you love the GH series of cameras, but you just wish it had a little bit more video functionality, if like that's what all you use the camera, then I could see here. But I don't know. Another thing that came out, didn't come out recently, but it did come out recently, like December, January timeframe. So it's a pretty recent come out. It's not something that was given any sort of high attention over at CES or anything. But it's the Panasonic Lumix G9. It shoots 4K, 60p, so it does a lot of the same stuff that GH4 does or GH5 does. But it's a little bit cheaper. It's about $300 cheaper, and I was looking at this camera as maybe thinking like, oh, this could maybe be a second body or something, but considering the price point, it's over than GH5. I would rather spend the extra few $100s and get a camera without, you know, any compromises, because this has some compromises. So, you know, but I did shoot my GH5 at the rodeo, and I was shooting, you know, continuous focus and shooting high, you know, frames per second shooting. And it kept focus. It kept everything, kept the action. Got a good, I think 9 frames per second or something like that. So it wasn't a slouch. It wasn't a slouch. But anyways, so yeah, GH5 that's passed, still passed for me. But that was one of the only camera bodies I saw that was announced. There were some concept cameras from Canon. I'm not really too familiar with these. They look like there was so there's this one interesting one. It actually it looks about the same size as a Gear 360, the latest one that Samsung came out with, but actually has a head that can track you. So I could see this being something maybe, you know, where you were doing perhaps, you know, you were the on-camera personality and you were interviewing people or moving around. I could see this being something like, you know, you could do when you're on the red carpet and you're interviewing celebrities for, I don't know, for their shows, about their shows.
I can say if you showed up to the red carpet with one of these, I would be very angry that you were there. But but that's all. You're just taking up space.
Kind of a, but you know, I have shot on the red carpet one time. I did it once, and I'll never do it again because it wasn't fun of an experience. But
no, it's not.
I was, you know, of course, the way I understand the red carpet, obviously the first row is the top of the line. You know, the big money makers. You know, your big news agencies, your APs, your New York Times, whatever. And then the second row, and you got 30 rows, or, you know, depending on, you know, again, what your agency is, where you can scrounge, you know, to get that space. So what, were you in the front row or were you in the back rows?
This wasn't like, you know, like I shot, I haven't shot like a lot of those traditional red carpets where it's, you know, basically a film, that's more of a film premiere red carpet. These are
actually,
like
it wasn't a film, it was a restaurant opening. It was Justin Timberlake's restaurant in New York City.
Well, I mean, kind of same thing, like an opening, that sort of thing. Like this was more much smaller. It was actually at the museum in Washington D.C. But it was more centered towards comic press and kind of and that sort of entertainment press. Like Extra was next to us, you know, Extra that show, but
Extra.
But you know, they were pretty low key on everything. I mean, there wasn't any of the screaming. Like I covered the Gone Girl premiere in New York, and that one was something that was the sort of experience I kind of never want to do again, where like everyone is just screaming at the talent to look at them. And it's, you know, it basically gets on the edge of kind of offensive towards and very demeaning towards the talent. Like I still remember Neil Patrick Harris just for some reason wasn't smiling, I guess, as much as they did. And so they were like screaming at him. Like you had like 30 photographers like yelling at him, "Smile, Neil, smile, smile, smile." And then he just like kind of like slightly perked up one side, like a slight smirk. And then it was like, you know, images like he looked like he just hated being there. And I couldn't tell whether it was because he didn't want to like be smiling as opposed to the movie, or whether he was just like, this is, I can't believe I'm doing this again or something. I don't know. But yeah, no, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like, you know, when you're like actually physically like elbowing people to get spanked. Thank God.
Yeah, I was, you know, we had something similar like that happen there, where the press just were totally pissed off at a celebrity. I think it was like Jay-Z or somebody big like that. And instead of walking the red carpet, they went behind the carpet or behind the sort of the back, you know, because they didn't want to rock the red carpet. And all the press was like, "Oh, come on!" His name was, you know, come on. They yelled him out, you know, tried to get him to guilt him to come out.
Yeah, you have a lot of really, you know, very special people who think they're better than than having to actually deal with the press and stuff like that. And like, I get it. It's a very terrible process, but like you're promoting, usually it's like, it was like we did the Batman Superman one in like I think it was, I don't know if it was like the big premiere, but like most of the actors were there, and it was down in New York. I think at was it Radio City Music Hall or whatever the hell, whatever it's called. Or Ben Affleck did like 2 interviews and then just kind of like hustled along, and like basically everybody else in the press line was like, "Are you kidding me?" But they're like, "Oh, okay, we'll give him one more question." Then so literally it was just this dive in, and 12 people surrounded Ben Affleck and asked him questions, like one of them, and then kind of like hustled off. And you're like, you're promoting this film, like this is literally part of your job. Like, situation is the setup is so terrible. Like this is part of it. I don't know. I have very little patience for actors who don't. I get getting yelled at and stuff like that, and the stuff that they yell, that a lot of the paparazzi photographers yell at, like the women and things like that, is just atrocious. But not to do interviews and not to, at least promote the thing that you're there for, and to just show up as, it's a very Kanye West type move.
Yeah. I mean, it comes with the job in a sense. And I've always, I've done celebrity photography, and, you can feel sorry for them because, obviously they're people just like you. And, it is sad sometimes where you see things go, but they are getting paid a lot of money, and they have a lot more money than you do. But, again, they're still people. Got to treat them with respect. And I never would advocate or, promote treating anybody with disrespect, especially in this day and age. You do not want to be the guy who does that. That is bad news right there. It's not going to be stood for. Anyways, talking about Nikon. So I know this is probably high on your wish list, high on your Christmas list, Zach. I think this is definitely something that's in your ballpark, definitely affordable. All you have to do is, sell your car, maybe some body parts, donate all your blood.
Is only worth about $13,000 right now, but I owe more than that on it. I'm not quite sure selling my car is going to help.
Well, you know what? Maybe you can get a couple of credit cards. We're talking, of course, about the Nikon 180 to 400 millimeter f4 $12,400 lens with a built-in teleconverter.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's like really, really cool.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you're the Nikon user, Zach.
I mean, the next, all I can say is I am drooling over this for the next big event that I cover, where Nikon Professional Services has their booth. And I'm hoping they have a whole bunch of these, because I will take this lens out. And I don't know, they may never see it again. No, the only thing that worries me about this is that this weekend, I don't know what the hell happened, but my shoulder, like I'm actually beginning to think that I might actually have to have some sort of surgery on it. It's like lifting up my camera was grinding, excruciating pain, my right shoulder. So I look at this lens and I remember the 400 f4. I think it was the 400 f4. I could be wrong. That I borrowed. That I borrowed at the Republican National Convention, or maybe the DNC. I forget which one it was, but I think it was the DNC. Right. And using that lens, oh my god, my entire body hurt, not ached, hurt for a week after, because of using that lens, because I didn't have a monopod. I didn't have anything. And not that I don't think you were even allowed to bring a monopod onto the floor. But I had to lift it over my head, try focusing, holding it with one hand, doing Hail Mary shots. And thank God I had the D750 that I had also borrowed, because then I could at least look at the LED and I didn't have to chimp back and forth. But yeah, this is the sort of lens that you want to use. The shots came out absolutely amazing. And people are always blown away when I tell them that, oh yeah, no, I was holding this over my head and basically Hail Marying it continually, by just spraying and praying for the most part. But this is the sort of thing that you're going to really have a monopod at least with to shoot with. This is like, you know, this is like a golf lens. It's like
a golf lens,
like
golf,
the sort of thing
like
that you use
for
golf, as in golfing, like because you're so far back when you're photographing golf that you usually have to have some sort of lens like this. It's so pretty. So pretty.
Yeah, no, I mean, this definitely looks like a nice piece of kit, and probably something that I wish I was still at Combat Camera, because I know they're probably going to order at least a couple of these. Like they have every single lens. They got 600 millimeter, 500, 300, 400. Wow. They got every single like lens you can think of. So I know they'll probably get at least 5 of these, probably with their end of year purchases.
I'd rather the military buy a bunch of these than a bunch of F-55s.
You combine this
to Norway.
Oh my God.
Sorry,
I think it was F-52. I can't remember.
Whatever, it's from Call of Duty, so you know, whatever. But yeah.
But yeah, this, you know, I mean, talking about Combat Camera, actually, this would be a perfect lens for them, because a lot of the stuff they do, you know, is like reconnaissance photography and stuff like that. And, you know, considering the fact that as a built-in teleconverter, you combine this with like a D5 or a D5S or whatever's out now. And I mean, you get some sweet low light stuff from really far away. So I see this definitely being something that they're going to be using very soon. And you know, Zach, you know, you always talk about your shoulders and you're hauling this big heavy camera equipment. Switch over to the Micro Four Thirds side, man. Look at this is a 1 to 300 millimeter lens right here. You know, lightweight, super duper lightweight. 200 to 600 millimeter equivalent.
This lens, and I don't have to move, so I can just sit and get a lawn chair.
Yeah, there you go.
Switch on the teleconverter and just call it a day. I just like can sit at the back room and just snipe away at all my photos and get close-ups of people. And that's, to me,
set this bad boy on a tripod. Get one of those old-fashioned, push lever shutter releases. And chill out, enjoy the day. Bada bing, bada boom, you're done.
Yep.
Have your camera automatically wire it to your laptop. You ain't gotta do nothing.
Yep. Now, if only if only the Nikon app actually worked, then it would be all great. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely like, you know, again, the dream lens, you know, that most people wish they had, but yeah, kind of priced out. But I definitely would, if I were a Nikon shooter, I would definitely consider renting the lens, especially if I had something like either renting it just to use it or renting it for a specific event. Or like you said, you know, you're going to use this in something like the Olympics where they're going to have the Nikon professional services support. So, you know, but glad honestly, Nikon is kind of hitting out. What's that?
Did you see this? For stabilizing shots, the lens has a new removable, rotatable, ball-bearing tripod collar ring that helps you effortlessly switch between shooting horizontal and vertical.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
Is that just like every other tripod like holder thing on a lens? I mean, what's significant about that?
I don't know. It just I don't remember being maybe it isn't that big. It just sounded cool. I don't know. I just never heard it described that way. I could be a complete idiot on this, but
no worries. Anyways, I think this would be a great lens tied with the 50 D5 because again, it gets you some sweet stuff. Speaking of lenses, Samyang, a company that does love, but has been making lots of strides in their own way, unveiled their first autofocus camera lens. So they're a Korean company, and they have a 2.8 auto lens for Canon mounts. If I needed a 14 millimeter lens, I could definitely be something in my sort of need book. But I'm interested. You know, it's interesting to see where Samyang is doing, because I believe the only lenses they've ever released have been manual focuses. So I know that they are able to, you know, they've created very high quality lenses that are much cheaper than the typical. Any thoughts on this lens, or just Samyang, or third-party lenses in general?
I think I've tried a couple Samyangs previously, at least when I worked at B&H. They were around. They were always amazing, usually for the price point. This one though, a little what? Because it's $849, and I'm trying to think of doesn't Sigma have? I'm trying to think if Sigma has what their price point is on there. It seems like it just feels high for this lens, but for this lens in general, but for a Samyang version of this lens. So, but but on the other hand, I mean, everything looks top notch. I mean, according to their sharing here, I like the fact that it's an incredibly basic looking lens. It doesn't seem like there's much that can get damaged as much, or because I mean, that's always one thing with cheaper lenses, like the sheen or anything like that is something that's gonna. But like this looks like the Sigma Art series lens a little bit, which is cool. But
right,
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna look that up. What their price point is on their.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I purchased
1.8. That's why. Yeah.
Okay. I purchased one lens
$1,500
when I was shooting Canon. That wasn't the Canon variant. Or what did you say was $1,500?
The Sigma 1.8 art lens is about $1,500 or $1,400, depending on which store you go to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've only purchased a third-party lens for my Canon camera kit. It was a it was a. I think it was that brand you just talked about a minute ago. What's that art lens series?
Sigma.
Yes, it was a Sigma lens. Yeah. Sigma 50mm lens. That's the only time I've ever purchased sort of an off-brand. Great lens, no issues with it. But I would consider buying, non-Panasonic lenses for my camera body if they were cheap enough and if they were good enough. But I mean, honestly, most times I kind of want to get the first party stuff, I'm just partial to first party. I think they know what they're doing, and they have that sort of innate, obviously competitive advantage with knowing what their, how their camera is made. So, yeah, I don't know. Most times I just go with that.
It's it always depends. I mean, the price point is actually the price point's decent enough. I'm finding even used the Nikon. Their 2.8 lens, which is a great lens, but even used like at B&H, it's $1,300. Oh wow! You're saving a considerable amount of money. But
yeah, totally. I would go with third party if I was saving money. If it was a considerable amount of money, I would definitely consider third party for my lenses.
Yeah,
and it was good quality.
But if you're using a crop sensor, though, that's not really a massively amazing deal, considering there's the Tokina 11-16 2.8, which I love that lens, which I think it goes for like $350 to $400 used now.
Right.
So, like, if I was looking for a wide angle, I would go with that lens in a heartbeat. But I don't know. I haven't seen what the ratings are on the quality of the lens and everything like that yet on this, but still, like, I did some of my best work I think I've ever done using a. But yeah, so.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about computers, because of course you can shoot photos on your camera all day, but you gotta have something to offload them onto. Now, honestly, I didn't see anything exciting with the world of computers here, except for, and I think a lot of people found this exciting, the Razer Project Lin computer, which basically takes the recently released Razer phone and allows you to essentially dock it into a laptop enclosure and use the phone as a trackpad for the laptop. a modified version of like the Android operating system in a laptop format. And this is it's just a pretty neat piece of tech. I mean, it's honestly something I would love to have and, be able to use with like my Galaxy S8 Plus. And I know that Samsung is taking this area, definitely seriously. I mean, they came out with the desktop, the Dex service, which I have, where it allows you to use your laptop, or I'm sorry, desktop computer as a phone, or use your phone in sort of a desktop configuration. I would love for them to come out with like a desktop type of thing where I could just into a tablet and dock that into a keyboard and make the whole thing happen. Like they had I don't know, like five years ago or something, they had a phone that could do that, and there just really hasn't been any other competitor to that. So I thought the Razer phone laptop thing was pretty neat. But beyond that, I didn't really see any other computers that kind of intrigued me or were different. Yeah. Any thoughts on this laptop thing? Is this something you would like in your sort of?
This is actually like the weirdest thing, because with my shoulder, I've been kind of doing my research on options for getting a new mouse, or whether you're getting a mouse or a touchpad, like what's the best thing. And so I've been going through my research, and like I love using, like I used to have the Apple separate touchpad. And I absolutely love that. That is, though, I'll tell you, it's absolutely terrible for carpal tunnel issues, that sort of thing. Micro movements, they're really the big problem. But I'm like, my phone just happened to be sitting next to where my mouse was, and I'm looking at it, I'm going, wait, use my phone, like what, my touchpad, like the movements aren't as specific as you might need to like edit photos maybe, but like general use, like that would just be a really cool thing. Because I was looking at some of the price points, and it's like $150 for touchpads, and I'm like, I already own this thing. Yeah. Like, why can't I double use it? And then literally you sent that link, like you sent the link for the show notes right after that. I'm like, that's genius that they're basically doing that. And I love this idea because my phone right now, I have the Galaxy S8 Plus. It's powerful enough to do basic photo editing in a Lightroom style app, and that's kind of mostly what I need in a laptop right now, like in just a basic thing. And being able to just have the computer processing power with all the info in there. My phone has I think it's either 64 or 128 gigs built in, and then it has a micro card. So it already has more than my MacBook Pro was even capable, or like price point wise being able to do. Like and then I actually have the cell phone being able to just not all of that just built in. So I'm not trying to tether anything or do whatever. Like I absolutely freaking love this idea. I hope because I mean, as every generation of phone goes along, it gets better. And unless you need to do 4K editing or something crazy, I mean, even that you can do with some phones, but like unless you need to do completely crazy things. But I mean, I don't think that most people, even photographers, more than at least especially photojournalists, when you're moving along on the road, like highlights, contrast, the two, like edit, like the absolute basic editing and the ability to be able to upload your photos to the internet are the two things you need from a laptop. And the idea that you could have that all built into one would absolutely be completely incredible. If that going forward, especially considering Google makes phones, and now they're like getting bigger and bigger into the laptop market. Look at this, maybe at least it becomes like it could be like a second hard drive, or like double the computing power, like, or something. I am all about this idea, especially considering it means that I have to carry potentially, or at least weight wise, that would be awesome.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame it only works with the one phone, but if it's something that you really want, I mean, I was actually considering this phone back when I thought I would have to buy a new phone, just because, again, the screen refresh rate, 120 hertz, and I mean, if they actually came out with something like this year, but I would definitely consider it highly when I upgraded in a few years. Yeah. And again, it's a concept right now, so it may or may not actually come out in the real world. But I hope it does, and I hope it does well. But it'll probably be like this super niche, you know.
I've seen ads for things like this though already.
Yeah. There is some stuff. I remember seeing a Kickstarter like 5 years ago about something like this that you could just plug your phone into, and it was future proof and everything like that. But I don't know if anything ever came of that.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. There's a Kickstarter thing called Superbook. Terrible thing. Transform your smartphone into a laptop. So basically it's a little computer that doesn't have, I don't think has any processing power or anything like that. And then you connect your phone to the computer, and then that's it. It's basically a screen and a keyboard, and then that's it. Trying to see what the price point is here, but wow, I mean, it looks like
I'd probably pay like $200 or something like that.
Starting price is $100. It looks like it's like maybe 50% bigger than that little laptop you have.
Right.
Yeah, so it looks like it's maybe like a iPad mini with a keyboard size thing, if you think about that. And then it connects to your phone and basically uses the computing power of your phone. So that's interesting.
All right.
Special guest.
Well, special guest.
Here's your
his room. It's my son. First time appearance on Around the Lens. Say hey, Julian.
What do you think about?
All right.
All right.
Julian, say Around the Lens.
Julian,
Around.
what's your favorite device from CES?
Julian, do you have a favorite device from CES this year?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Okay, buddy. Go back to mommy.
CVS.
All right, that's our viral moment for the night. Okay.
Yep.
Go to mommy, okay? Hold on one second. Talk about our next topic, which is going to be the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Yoga or TVs. I'll be right back.
Yep, no worries.
Boy.
Yeah, so now finally taking over the show. No, so I mean we have another the ThinkPad Yoga, which is the Yoga ones, or the laptops that kind of flip around and use on the back, which is something that I've always felt kind of weird that you'd have the keyboard on, like, I guess where your lap is going. But you know, it's just looks like it's just another it's a ThinkPad, so it's got the little red dot and for mouse abilities, and you know, I don't know, I just briefly going through it, it looks like it's another laptop, which I suppose has to be discussed. But
what is your computer situation right now? What are you using, or what are you looking? Because you're like, I sold my
MacBook.
Mac.
I sold my MacBook. I still have an iMac that I'm gonna either sell or throw out a window.
Right.
She's probably gonna sell it to a friend of mine who knows all of the issues that it has. So he's getting a really good deal on it, and is probably, if he's willing to put up with it. The thing that's killing me though is I have this fantastic monitor, basically, like, to replace the $350, basically $400. It's like $400, and it's a 3-year-old or 4-year-old iMac. But it kills me is that to replace the screen equivalent is going to cost me like $500 because it's a Retina screen, and it's a really great screen. So it's just like, I wish that there was a way that I could just plug it in. And if anybody knows, please tell me, because then I won't sell it and I'll just use the thing as a screen that has a hard drive in it and everything. I don't really care, but it kills me because it's like I have to get rid of it to basically be able to afford to buy a decent screen, because I have been just using my TV, my 1080p TV, using the HDMI plugin, which works more than well enough. I mean, I don't really do a lot of photo editing on it or anything, but it works, you know. And that was $200, and it's 34 inches or something. But yeah, no, I have my Asus laptop, which I bought refurbed, and it's if it didn't have Windows on it, I would absolutely positively love it, because it is so much faster, unbelievably so faster than the equivalent Apple for what I would have gotten for $1,200 from Apple.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, which I couldn't. It's a 15-inch monitor and everything like that, so I couldn't even have gotten something like this computer from Apple.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only weird thing is that it also, which I don't understand. If anybody can explain to me, PC users, why you'd want or care about having a touch screen on a laptop that doesn't do the whole yoga thing where it flips around. I don't understand why you'd want a touch screen. Like I understand why you'd want a touch screen and using a laptop. I did some photo editing when my shoulder was really hurting. I actually started just doing the slider and stuff like that on the screen, and that was really cool. But I had to hold the screen on one hand and then do it, and so it doesn't really work for any length of time. But yeah, that's my current.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had a laptop. Well, no, I digress. I have had my little mini laptop, wherever that is, does have a touch screen, and that's nice just because it's like, again, the size of like a cell phone. Yeah. So it is nice to have that. But on a full size device, I mean, I wouldn't deride. I mean, I wouldn't deride having a touch screen. I think it's just another input method. But
the problem is problem with it is it's like, oh, who cares? It doesn't change the price point. Weirdly, it seems like it should be more expensive, but I guess that like almost all the new Dell
economies of scale.
It's just now that's the way it is. But the problem is that people love touching your screen, which I'm sure like people point at your screen. Like you're in an office that you're whatever, and so I have to go like,
biggest pet peeve.
I can't, and I do it occasionally too. I'll just be like, I'll touch it and then, oh crap, like it'll open up a different app. I
click that link,
and it's just like, what the weird irritations. Where I wish if it did flip around, it would be fantastic. I had the Surface. I think it was just the Surface Book. Absolutely love that device. Really, because it had a detachable keyboard. It wasn't a yoga flip thing. So I'd actually just be able to use it as a thing, and it had 2 batteries, one in the screen and one in the laptop.
Why'd you get rid of it?
Which is cool. It wasn't powerful enough for what I needed. And I could not figure out, and a lot of that just had to do with the import, which I don't understand what the deal was there. Like it seemed to do everything really well. Editing was fine. And still was pretty fine. I didn't try 4K on it, so I don't know about that, but I don't think it would have done it. But the actual import of just using like Lightroom took forever, like just forever. And it could have been literally something I did wrong. I don't know. But it also was just one of those, this isn't like, I need basically the higher end version of it. So I sold it, and basically I think I used it for a couple months, and then like, I think I lost like $150 on it. So it wasn't the end of the world. But yeah, all part of my exploration of computers.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe you purchased the Surface Book instead of the Surface Book Pro.
Oh no, it certainly was the Surface Book, but the specs lined up pretty good with my the MacBook Pro that I had. So they literally are about the same price, so it shouldn't have been a problem, like spec wise. So I don't know if it was just something I did wrong, or maybe, as I've discovered, certain computers just really, really hate certain Adobe programs. Like this computer I own right now, the iMac just really despises cloud. Even though Apple says that it's not, that it's a cloud problem, I talked to a friend of mine who's an Apple specialist. He's like, oh yeah, no, that's a known problem. Like this version hates cloud and Adobe Cloud. So basically I got a lemon, and Apple refuses to do anything with it, which is part of the reason why I'm switching to PC. So
yeah. Well, that's why I switched away from all of Adobe products. I've been Adobe free for the last few months now, and I actually have not.
You're free and clear.
Free and clear, yeah. I don't have to pay any monthly. I'm not paying $50 a month to use their services, and honestly, I'm getting by with all the stuff that is free pretty much to me. I mean, I'm using Apple Photos to manage and deal with all my photos, and it's a very usable, robust enough program for what I need it to do. I'm using GarageBand to edit this podcast. I'm using a host of other photo editing software that deal with my raw photos. I still use Bridge because Bridge is not, they don't disable Bridge even when you cancel your Adobe account. So it's a great tool for putting in metadata and just going through your photos and making selects. So still love my Bridge. But yeah, I don't need any of the other stuff. I'm, I'm even getting along with GIMP. You know, I'm getting very used to GIMP. So, you know, that's not bad photo editing software. It has its own little learning curve, but it's not that bad once you know, take some time with it. But speaking of again, going back to the phone inside the laptop thing, like I said, besides, you know, I'm using my MacBook Pro a lot like a desktop nowadays because I've got these giant hard drives on my desk. I've got a 32 terabyte one and a 20 terabyte one that I made into a 10 terabyte one. But, you know, they're you know, giant desktop hard drives. And so I have them plugged into my MacBook because I'm constantly pushing stuff to the cloud. I'm trying to back up my entire archive to the cloud. So my MacBook ends up almost being like a desktop. So it'd be nice to have another laptop, I guess, so that I could, like, you know, work from around the house. I could, you know, wirelessly log into my laptop if I had to and do some work on it. But anyways.
Yeah.
Other things going on at CES, kind of run through really quick. TVs, 8K TVs are, you know, coming out. So Zach, make sure to save your schmeckles for a 146 inch display from Samsung.
Yep.
I'm sure you could probably put it on that wall behind you there. You know, just wallpaper.
Yeah. That'd be super useful.
That's what I want to see is like wallpaper TVs where it's just, you know, you take the glue and you just roll it onto your wall and it just becomes a screen.
I'm sure
that's the next step.
In 10 years it'll be a thing. If even in 10, I'm sure you could do it right now if you had, you know, a couple, you know, like $30,000-$40,000. I'm sure you could do a decent amount of space with them. But
it would be like spray paint TVs. You just spray the LCD on the wall. That'd be crazy. So yeah, I mean, obviously TVs are getting higher resolution, 8K TVs. You know, I had this sort of idea in my head that I would skip the 4K resolution generation on my TV at home and go straight to 8K. But, you know, they make those deals just so good at Black Friday. And it's crazy because I bought a 4K 60-inch television for half the cost that I spent on my 1080p TV like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, it's crazy what you can get quality of stuff at the cost.
Oh yeah,
any thoughts on
Sharp
TVs?
85-inch delay? The Sharp's 85-inch 8K display only costs about $133,000. So, you know, I mean, whatever works.
Jump change.
I don't know. I mean, I can notice the difference between because either I need to buy a new TV or a new monitor or something like that. So I've been kind of like looking around, and I notice the difference between a 720p enough between a 720p and a 1080p. And I can definitely see the difference between a 1080p and a 4K. I think that there's got to be a point where the returns are just not worth it necessarily. I mean, I guess as the standard becomes, now the standard is 1080. It's weird. It's honestly weird to see. I mean, oh my God, you could get a 40-inch 720p, $150 at Target. Like, that's insane to me. It's still insane to me. Like, I almost just bought it because I'm like, I mean, I don't need a 40-inch TV. My room is small enough. It's like I have my bedroom and my office is in the same spot. So 40-inch TV would be kind of ridiculous. $150. Like, literally, why not?
But you said 720p? You said 720p TV?
Yeah.
Or 1080p? Oh, 720p?
No,
oh,
720.
Oh,
yeah.
Who is going to buy 720p
like,
in this day and age?
It was a Roku built in. I mean, that's the crazy thing is that like Roku built in, and it's all these things. But who cares? I mean, you know, for 80% of this, especially considering how terrible for where I live, and I think where a lot of people live, how terrible the internet connection is, you're not getting 1080p, what they tell you through streaming. You're just not getting that. So you're not getting the quality anyway. So like, why would you buy? So I mean, like this is the only problem where I see like, you know, no doubt Silicon Valley can probably stream 8K. You know, they have no problem doing that. I'm sure parts of New York City can do it, you know, and things like that. But I mean, where 80% of America lives,
Korea,
you know, you're not Yeah, I mean, at least in America. I mean, the rest of the world, Albania has better internet connection than we do. I don't know, but because we don't care about these things.
Well, I can say,
what was it?
Here in Biloxi, Mississippi, where I live, I paid for like a little bit extra a month for the Netflix 4K update or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm watching, Planet Earth 2 and all these other 4K programs, HDR, and it's beautiful, worth it for that regard. And again, it's only worth it because I can actually stream it. If I couldn't stream it, then yeah, it wouldn't be worth it. And we'll see how the internet.
For me, it's like all these technologies are really amazing and it's great, and I'm super happy. But it's like special torture, I think, for a lot of America when when you hear that. I mean, what was it? One of the FCC commissioners had said, I think it was an FCC commissioner at least, more than 1 gig download. Like, why do people don't need that? That's all they need. Not understanding that, when you try to stream 2 televisions or do something, then it just breaks. Yeah, you can probably watch Netflix on that, maybe. But so it's, I mean, for me, it's amazing when you go to a proper civilized part of the country, like, you go to DC or something like that. And I was like streaming 1080p YouTube videos on my phone using 5G. I have, if I'm lucky, 1 bar of 3G here. So, but it's like, but that's, a lot of people live that. So it's like, I'm hoping what I'm hoping with all of these technologies is that they start realizing that maybe people in the rest of the country actually need the internet so they can actually use this. So like, you have all these big, tech companies have unbelievable sums of money, and they're capping out on the number of users that can be involved in their service. Whether it be for photo services, upload for Dropbox or whatever, you're going to cap eventually if you're not actually if people in rural areas or even, 3rd tier cities like Syracuse are able to not actually able to use the internet speeds that they need to use this sort of service. Anyway, I'm procrastinating as usual. So, but I'm complaining about the fact that I wish I could be in in 2018. I'm stuck in 2009 here in upstate New York. So
we get out of there, man. Move to Kansas City or move to one of these like places.
If I could move,
I would go to a place with Google Fiber.
I would, one of the sites I work for is based in Nashville. I think that they're one of the places that has maybe not Google Fiber, but there's Chattanooga has community broadband, and their internet is quicker than almost anywhere else in the country. It's quicker. I think it's actually quicker, or at least as quick as Google's fiber. And I don't understand. I mean, obviously I live, there's 12 people that live on my road, and it's 30 minutes, it's 20 minutes to the closest Walmart. So I get that it's going to be a while before we get fiber, and I doubt we will ever. I think that Spectrum probably hates the fact that they have to provide services to us. I'm sure they would love to get rid of us in a heartbeat. But it's one of those things I don't think that people talk about in the fact, and in that neutrality debate. It's just like, well, we're going to be the first people to lose out on that, because I understand services too. I get it. That's why I pay $60 a month, committed 50 upload. I pay more money than New York City does for half the speed. Like,
I mean, that was a big sticking point with the whole net neutrality thing, and really one of the biggest counter arguments to Ajit Pai's sort of, strangely, weirdly, just wrong argument that, essentially that this thing, this will somehow, people have choice, or people have, if they don't like their internet service provider, they can go someplace else. And that's not true for 60% of the America. We're stuck with one. We're lucky we have 2 here, but neither of them are that great.
City,
one.
Yeah. A friend of mine.
Well, both of them have data caps.
Yeah. Oh, you do have data caps? Oh, God. Oh, you have the AT&T deal, right, with DirecTV or whatever, so you get extended.
Yeah, I don't have a data cap because I have AT&T and I have Uverse internet and I have the DirecTV. That's it.
But there's no. I mean, otherwise, we don't have. The only competition that we have out here is DSL. And they are still, I can't believe that they're allowed to call themselves high-speed internet. Maybe 10 years ago when cable, at least, wired internet or fiber or whatever was slower. But now the difference is so ridiculous. I mean, like the idea that you can't do anything that people do in this day and age on the internet. I mean, just going to basic websites. I mean, try going to a news website, like a local TV station that has all those autoplay videos. Try doing that with like a non-broadband internet connection. You're going to be 20 minutes just before you can get to the page where you can actually read the little article or see a photo. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. But that's what you get when you have a commissioner like him. So it's not surprising. I mean, he's so far in the pocket of I just don't know who is possibly the people that will benefit from, like, long-term will benefit from killing net neutrality when most of these corporations are owned by media companies. So like, I'm not going to be able to afford to stream your movie or buy your movie and over the internet, over Vudu or whatever. And so it's like, it surprises me. And like, Vudu, which is a very good like digital service for movies and TV. It's owned by Walmart. And what just always surprised me that Walmart, like a lot of these companies that have like a lot of money invested in this sort of thing, never really threw their hat into the ring or at least threw their opinion, reality, at least as far as we know. Maybe they threw money somewhere and we just don't know about it. But it surprises me that that conversation can be had by more businesses. I mean, like if I was any of the companies that make movies, I'd be freaking out right now. The idea that Spectrum, which or some other large Comcast, or I'm trying to think of one of the internet carriers that doesn't own their own like movie studio or TV studios, but I'm blanking on them because I think that Spectrum does, and I know that Comcast does. So, but there's got to be a couple out there. But I mean, you can decide which studios are going to be able to provide movies to you and everything like that. I mean, the fact that reality was killed, and immediately the conversation was, well, how do you feel about Blockbuster not being around anymore? Like that alone should have been the point where people in the film industry and entertainment industry and the content industry, oh crap, this is going to end poorly for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how things move forward with the internet, and hopefully there's a silver lining at some point. The things I do hear is that Mr. Tesla, Mr. Project SpaceX, what's his face? He wants to actually cover like the sky with satellite dishes that can beam internet anywhere in the world, high-speed internet. And the idea being, again, you pay like a nominal fee to him, and he's the internet service provider. It's all because he's only been doing this SpaceX thing so he can get rocket deliveries as low as possible, like $10 million to shoot stuff into the sky, so he can create this internet service provider for the world, then make the money he needs to get to Mars. That's the whole thing. That's the whole master plan. He just wants to get to Mars. Anyway, so we'll see how that goes.
And I personally would support if somebody wanted to do a Kickstarter where we all funded money and we just sent him to Mars. Be for that, because I just want him out of the public discourse and conversation on every part of that he's trying to do. Because shooting more satellites into the space is not a good freaking idea. I literally had this conversation when I was on the Mars set. Mars. And the scientists that were, scientists and researchers that talk about this are freaking the hell out, because space travel is basically in 15 years is basically going to be completely impossible. What China is doing, what North Korea, what South Korea, what all these countries are starting to do is their own space program to some level. But most of it's not to send people to the moon or whatever. It's to shoot literally, like, it used to be satellites are, like, you know, like the size of houses or whatever. Now they're the size of small sedans. You can't track them as well. And if you don't have the interagency cooperation, which doesn't happen, that they're up there, you don't know if they're so. Everybody that I talked to that like looks at this was talking about having the problem, including him, including what's his name, including Tesla wannabe,
Elon Musk.
Yeah, Musk. Even he's been talking about the fact that this is an upcoming problem. And so if we start shooting more and more little satellites up into space to be able to provide internet to people, you have your own problem. You have a different problem. Never mind the fact that like it's not reliable internet then, which is what is important. Reliable internet is the most important thing. I remember when I was in Alaska, I was driving a lot, and first thing I was like, oh, I should get Sirius radio. And everybody told me, they laughed at me and they said, good luck, it doesn't work here. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's like, we're too far up on the planet. So literally the parts of the planet that could benefit from this sort of stuff isn't going to benefit from it. It's just, again, people in Silicon Valley loving an idea that rich people can give rich people money. So what we need is to build some freaking lines, bury them, put them in the ground, and so a windstorm doesn't come by and blow them over like they do at my house, and then we can have it. But that requires infrastructure, and nobody wants to do that because that's not something that venture capital is going to get involved in.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, let's close out this week's show.
Sorry, this was a heavy Zach ranting about politics episode for being a tech episode too.
Yeah, right. We always find a way to get to it. Zach.
I just see Dave
like, all right, let's talk.
Back with his eyes closed.
I didn't get much sleep last night, so I'm kind of drowsy. But that's nothing against you. The Blade AR glasses, I thought this was pretty neat. You know, I thought the Google Glass was a neat idea. I played with it for about 5 minutes, and I thought it was okay, but I never saw myself actually wearing it. These glasses, though, from a company called Vuzix, they're actually pretty neat, and they seem like they work. And you know, obviously the price is prohibitively expensive at $1,000, but they're not bad looking, and you know, they look like pretty much normal shades. And they display, you know, like this, like on-screen display. So if you don't want to, you have to look at your watch or look at your phone to get notifications. You know, you can see notifications right on here. Yeah. My biggest sort of desire with anything like this type of stuff is that it has the camera and it can identify people and tell me what their name is before I talk to them, because I always forget people's names. That's all I want, something like this. But I like the you know, the camera being right there on your face. You can shoot photos of your family and whatever, you know. Kind of similar to what they had with the glass, but I thought that was pretty much the neatest thing with regard to a sort of VR or a visual information tie. Yeah. Zach, are you gonna sell your house, sell your car, and get one of these?
No, I'm not. Until they look like just glasses, I'm not really all that interested. I'm not really all that interested anyway. But you know, these look like, I mean, they're at least better than the Google glasses, which at least looked. I think the Google glasses looked better, even though they had that weird the camera thing, like there on the right side of the frame, and oh, you're being photographed, which is also kind of a good thing. If people have these on, I kind of want to know. I kind of like the idea of knowing that somebody's recording me. But right. I don't know. I'm not completely sold by these. I find the people are prohibitive for people who exist in today's society. Like, I see somebody driving with these. I see, you know, like this is the sort of thing that like somebody falls off a cliff like while walking and using. The one thing I am happy though is I just noticed it's a Rochester company, so that's good because I'm happy anything that comes from upstate New York because it might mean that we have an economy.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah. So, we'll have two things. We'll have people selling these AR glasses, and then Kodak will probably drop doing film again and just focus on cryptocurrency.
Yeah, jeez. I don't really have time to talk about that, but that's definitely an interesting development. Kodak with their crypto cash or Kodak Cash. I don't even know. I mean, I know cryptocurrency is the hot thing right now. I was thinking maybe we change this name show to like Around the Coin, and we just call it a cryptocurrency podcast.
We were trying to work out the deal.
And then we'll see the.
Nothing really worked out well.
It's just one of those things I wish I had purchased a few years ago. I'd be a millionaire right now. Yeah. But anyways, no regrets. No regrets. I do like this kind of tech. I really hope it gets down to a more consumer-friendly level because I'm a nerd and I can definitely see myself wearing these, at least, like when I go for a run or whatever. So $200-300 probably would be the most I would pay for anything like this. Just, once they get down to that level or somebody gets down to that level, then we'll see like an actual, maybe not revolution, but we'll definitely see, see people out.
Again, I think the camera aspect of them is the most. Oh, how much I want to seriously use them. I'm trying to think of I live with glasses continually and they fog up and they do whatever, but I don't know if I'd want my vision blocked by directions or whatever, right. And so I don't know. Obviously, if they come out with a $300 one, everybody in the brother will have one. But I also I don't know if they'll do well. If they were massively useful, I don't think I'd be all that interested in. I mean, in so much as, on the other hand, I also, even with the camera one, I did not buy the Snapchat ones because they looked ridiculous. Which is part of the point to point out that they're Snapchat glasses, and that was the whole part of the advertising thing. But you heard about that, right? That they have 100,000 extra ones in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And, the company almost went.
I thought about getting one.
What drives me nuts is they got 100,000 of them sitting in a warehouse somewhere, and and they're talking about how I think that somebody got kicked off a board. There was big repercussions from the fact of how badly they played this thing, and they thought that everybody was going to want them. Yet they're not dropping the price. It's like you have 100,000 of these things supposedly sitting in a warehouse, so make them $50. They're $50. I'll buy one. If you make it $50, Snapchat, I'll buy one just to experiment with. I'll probably never use it because I don't really use Snapchat, but maybe I'll consider it. Maybe I'll consider using it more. But it's kind of funny. It's just they're all sitting in a warehouse somewhere. It's okay, so sell them. But I think that they're destroying
I think Snapchat realizes there's not too much competition in the space. Yeah. So they can just sell them. They don't have to lose money on them because they're not.
But they're already losing money
I guess right now.
I don't know. I mean, the problem is that the tech is going to be by the time they get down to 75,000, tech's going to be so old that I don't know. No one's. I don't know. It just seems. Again, it's the way that these companies work is that they just have so much venture capital, so much so much money that they don't know what to do with any of them, so they don't have to act like proper companies. Which is what worries me about Kodak getting into Bitcoin, because if you notice, their stock went through the roof when they announced that, which is to me really insane. Because I don't understand why people would want to buy Kodak stock because they're getting into a cryptocurrency. I don't really get it. But it's just, I don't know. There's very few companies within the tech sector now that kind of act like adults because they're just spending other people's money. And that's one thing that really bothers me, especially when it comes to stuff that I want, is that it's great. I wouldn't be buying, if I thought that Nikon was going out of business in the next 5 years, I would not be buying Nikon. I don't want to have technology that isn't supported by anyone. I always worry about, Samyang lenses, all the different smaller companies. I'm I don't want to buy tech that in 2 years, the company doesn't exist behind it and then no one cares about it. So that's why I was obsessed about, actually as a corporation. It's no, I want you to continue existing, Nikon. update your apps so that people want to use your cameras anyway. But.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to close out this week's show. We talked all about gear and stuff. Join us next week. We're going to have our biggest guest I think we've ever had, or at least one of the biggest guests, Mr. Joe McNally. He's going to be our guest for that week's show. So please come back out and listen to Joe McNally talk.
He's like
pretty much about himself.
He's like 7.5 feet tall. He literally is our biggest guest. No.
That's right. He's huge. So it'll probably just be his chest, like in the viewfinder, because like he can't adjust the camera to that high.
Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, no, he's going to be on the show.
Really,
I've been a fan
hope
of his.
He's not actually listening right now.
Joe, we love you. If you are listening, we're just being funny. I blame it on Zach. I love you. Anyways, though, big fan of his for more than 10 years, and so really happy to have him joining us on the show next week, and going to talk about kind of himself, and also his thoughts on whatever's going on in the news that week. So tune in. It's going to be episode 108. It's going to be a great show. Anyways, Zach, you got anything you want to throw out? People can check out, or
nope, not for me.
It's gonna be the same old.
I'm gonna be back on the road for the next couple of weeks, driving in a loop down to Washington D.C. because my car already has 32,000 miles on it. So why not? And it's only a year into me owning it. Why not put another 30 on it? So check out my work, because I'll actually be updating my work as opposed to just me being on social media complaining about things. So I'll probably still be doing that. That's a lie. I'll still be doing that.
I'll be uploading more stuff to my website, djmphoto.com, and just go there and check out all about me. But if you want to know anything more about the show, please go to our website, www.aroundthelens.com. I have been your host, David J. Murphy. And, of course, for Zach Roberts, this is Around the Lens, episode 107, and we are out.